I'll give you 20 billion RMB if you can just prove the Earth is flat. The money is yours. This is not a joke. Just last month, the CEO of a certain brand offered a bounty to flat earthers all over the world. He doesn't need you to sail around the world like Magellan. All you have to do is take a picture proving the edge of the world exists, and you'll get his entire company's assets. That's right, this bounty has made the flat Earth theory a topic of public fascination once again. So, what is the flat Earth theory? They believe the Earth is a flat disk with the North Pole at its center. And Antarctica is a wall of ice, the sun is a giant light bulb, and the moon is a reflective sphere. What we call mass extinctions and catastrophic events were all deliberately fabricated. Humanity is simply a species imprisoned beneath a projected dome. In their view, Magellan didn't circumnavigate a globe, he just went in a circle on top of a giant disk. He never went around a sphere at all. Even all those space photos released by NASA are nothing but Photoshop fakes. The reason this lie that the Earth is round was invented is because they're afraid of ordinary people finding out that the world has a boundary. If you dare to confront them with photos of the Earth taken by satellites and astronauts, they'll shut you down with one question that leaves you speechless. Have you seen it with your own eyes? You probably think they're either stupid or brainwashed, right? But if you were to walk into the Flat Earth International Conference, FEIC, you'd find that the people in the audience aren't stupid at all. In fact, many of them are society's elites. NBA superstar Kyrie Irving, worth hundreds of millions, has openly questioned the Earth's shape. The famous rapper B.O.B. even started a crowdfunding campaign to launch a satellite to find the truth. And in their inner circle, you'll find a large number of Silicon Valley IT engineers, PhDs with advanced degrees, and even retired military personnel. This is where it gets strange. When a group of the most successful and highly educated people in our system starts to switch sides, you can't help but wonder if they've gotten their hands on some kind of top-secret files. In fact, the confidence of this group comes from a famous experiment that took place in 1838, the Bedford Level Experiment. At that time, the father of the modern flat Earth movement, Samuel Robotham, went to a canal in Cambridgeshire, England. This canal has a straight stretch of 9.7 kilometers, and the waterway is known as the Old Bedford River, according to calculations of the Earth's curvature. If the Earth is a sphere, then over a distance of 9.7 kilometers, an object should drop by about 7 meters, which means it should have completely disappeared from view. Robotham set up a telescope at this distance and watched a small boat with a flag on it sail away. The result sent a chill down his spine. Model. The small boat didn't sink, even after traveling for nearly 10 kilometers. Through a telescope, the flag on the boat could still be clearly seen, fluttering above the water's surface. According to the formula, it should have been several meters below the horizon. Because of this, Samuel Robotham wrote the classic work of flat Earth theory, Zetetic Astronomy. He told the world that the surface of water is always flat and that curvature is a lie. To this day, the level doesn't lie remains the most resounding slogan for flat earthers across the globe. If the experiments of the 19th century weren't shocking enough, then the experience of U.S. Navy Admiral Richard Byrd points directly to that massive conspiracy. The world behind the Antarctic Ice Wall. In 1946, the U.S. Navy launched the famous Operation High Jump, dispatching 4,700 soldiers, aircraft carriers, and submarines to Antarctica. The official story was that it was a military exercise. But flat earthers point out, who would go to a land of ice and snow to conduct such a large-scale exercise? When Admiral Byrd was interviewed after the mission, he said something that shocked the world. Beyond that pole, there is a continent the size of the United States. That is a region humanity has never set foot in. Notice his wording. Beyond the pole, if the Earth were a sphere. Once you cross the South Pole, you're just heading north. So where does this beyond come from? Flat earthers firmly believe that Admiral Byrd accidentally passed through the ice wall and saw the world beyond the disk. There are even rumors that his secret diary recorded giant flying saucers, entrances to the inner Earth, and even a super civilization that wasn't human. And shortly after this operation, the Antarctic Treaty was quickly signed. All nations unanimously agreed to lock down Antarctica, prohibiting private individuals from exploring its depths. During the Cold War, why was the issue of Antarctica the only thing the US and the Soviet Union could agree on? Flat earthers believe it's because that is the gateway to the boundary, and it must be guarded by everyone. Looking even further back, in 1931, before NASA was even founded, We have the first person in human history to reach the stratosphere, physicist Auguste Piccard. He ascended to an altitude of 15,000 meters in a hydrogen balloon, as the first person to see the full view of the Earth with his own eyes. He described the sight before him like this in an interview with Popular Science magazine. It seemed like a flat disk with upturned edges. Now remember, this isn't some conspiracy theory blogger. He was a famous physicist, even a scientist of his caliber, saw a disk with his own eyes. So why are all the later photos from NASA's spheres? Could this be a global revision meant to cover something up? It's precisely these clues, buried by history, that have led modern-day explorers to take up the weapons in their hands. An 83 times zoom Nikon camera. Textbooks say ships disappear because of the Earth's curvature, but they stood on the shore, pushing the lens to its maximum zoom. The very scenes that should have disappeared over the curve were suddenly pulled back into view, perfectly intact. They exclaimed, "Look!" Robotham was right. There is no curvature at all. Only the law of perspective, beyond the surface of the sea. They turned their gaze toward the sky. They questioned every commercial pilot. If the Earth is a sphere with a circumference of 40,000 kilometers, then a plane flying at 800 kilometers per hour would have to adjust its nose downward every single minute. Otherwise, it would fly right out of the atmosphere and into space. But have you ever had to push the yoke forward? The answer from every single pilot was no. The gyroscope, which remains perfectly level during a flight that spans thousands of kilometers. This should be almost impossible on a globe model. In their eyes, this became the most airtight piece of logic. But ultimately, reasoning is just that, reasoning. Someone decided to risk their life to prove it. 64-year-old rocket daredevil Mad Mike Hughes didn't trust NASA's polished, photoshopped images. He built a steam-powered rocket in his own backyard, and with no electronic assistance, he launched himself toward the sky, all for the chance to see the Earth's curve with his own eyes. In 2020, when the rocket's parachute failed after liftoff, he plummeted back to the ground. And though he failed, flat earthers around the world were galvanized. To them, this was more than just exploration. It was a movement of awakening, a fight against a Truman Show world. They were convinced that freedom lay beyond the ice wall, while the rest of us are trapped under a dome. Mere subjects of observation, deceived by a fake gravity, sounds pretty inspiring, doesn't it? Daring to question authority, willing to give their lives for the cause. Too bad all that passion is completely worthless. If you actually understand physics, you'd realize that every piece of ironclad proof just mentioned, whether it's the Bedford experiment or Piccard's disk, is all based on a misunderstanding of basic science. First, let's talk about the famous Bedford experiment that wasn't proof of no curvature. It's called atmospheric refraction. If you've taken even basic physics, you'd know that the air near the surface of the water is cold and damp, which makes it denser, causing light rays to bend downward. What Robotham saw was an illusion where the target was lifted into view by the bending light. In fact, the scientist Alfred Russel Wallace later conducted a modified experiment on the very same river. By raising the point of observation to avoid surface-level refraction, the curvature became immediately visible. Flat earthers only believe what they want to believe, that one time, and ignore the 10,000 corrections that come after. As for the continent beyond the pole that Admiral Byrd spoke of, that was the unexplored interior of the Antarctic continent. Relative to the coastal bases, it is indeed on the other side of the pole. He later clarified countless times that it was an ice sheet, but conspiracy theorists only clipped that one sentence. And then there's the warped disk that Piccard saw. That was from an early balloon gondola, with a small, bowl-sized round porthole that created a limited field of view. When you look at the world through a small round hole, of course the edges appear blurry and curved upwards. This isn't just a lack of evidence. On the contrary, it's a textbook example of taking things out of context. The most ridiculous claim is that pilots don't have to push the stick forward. This shows a complete ignorance of gravity. An airplane isn't flying in a straight line in outer space, it's riding on air currents. Gravity holds the atmosphere firmly to the Earth's surface. The layers of the atmosphere are naturally curved for a pilot. Down always points towards the center of the Earth. When a plane flies level in the air currents, it is actually circling the Earth. It's just like when you're walking on flat ground. You don't need to consciously look down at your feet. Gravity corrects everything for you. So why does the flat Earth theory even exist? These people generally fall into two camps. The first group claims it's not that they don't believe in science, but that they must verify everything themselves. As for the second group, For them, admitting the Earth is round is the same as admitting that we are not even a speck of dust in the universe. It's admitting that we are completely on our own. Flat earthers try to numb themselves with ideas like an ice wall and God. In their eyes, this is better than admitting that humanity is alone in the universe. But true science, after recognizing this cruel truth, still chooses to strap engines onto this lonely sphere and venture forth into the great void. The Earth isn't a cage, it's our only spaceship in this endless darkness. Well, it's time to get back to the daily grind. If the Earth were flat, what do you think would be beyond the wall? I'm Lao Ma. No matter what shape our world is, keep enjoying the sunshine and enjoying life. Good night. A giant hole appearing above the Earth has become an astronaut's nightmare, according to a NASA report. When astronauts are in this region, they see strange images, even with their eyes closed. Furthermore, all high-tech satellites must power down when passing through here and shut off their cameras. Otherwise, it could be completely destroyed. Some people even call this place the Space Bermuda Triangle. But what gives scientists an even bigger headache is this giant hole is getting bigger. This isn't science fiction. It's a real area hanging in the sky above Earth, the South Atlantic Anomaly, or SAW. Compared to the legends of the Bermuda Triangle at sea, the danger here isn't some mysterious force, but a real, physical assault. Even the Hubble Space Telescope, armed to the teeth, has to do one thing every single time it passes through here, and that is to power down and shut off. Are you wondering what it would capture if it didn't shut down? The answer is, before you could even take a picture. In just a matter of seconds, its sophisticated electronic brain would be fried by high-energy particles. The data would get corrupted, and it might even be turned into a useless piece of scrap metal. This giant hole hangs right between South America and Africa, over the South Atlantic Ocean, like a massive scar on the atmosphere. What's causing this constantly expanding hole? What have astronauts seen when passing through it? Is it a sign that the Earth's magnetic field is about to flip, or a precursor to something else entirely? To understand just how terrifying this anomaly is, we first need to understand one thing: the reason you can safely scroll through videos on Earth without being harmed by cosmic radiation is all thanks to a built-in bulletproof vest that the Earth has. The Earth's magnetic field. This field extends far into space, where it traps the deadly, high-energy particles from the solar wind, essentially putting them in solitary confinement, locking them into two donut-shaped regions surrounding our planet. These two regions are called the Van Allen radiation belts. You can think of them as Earth's protective moat, filled with scorching hot radioactive magma. Under normal circumstances, this moat is a long way from the ground. The inner belt is at least 1,000 to 3,000 kilometers away from us, whether it's an airplane or a low-orbit satellite. As long as they fly below this altitude, they're safe. But here's the crucial part. This magnetic field of Earth's, it isn't a perfect sphere. It's warped, it's even broken. For some unknown reason, over South America, in the skies above the Atlantic from Brazil to southern Africa, the Earth's magnetic field strength has become bizarrely weak, and this causes that belt, the Van Allen belt, which is filled with deadly radiation, to droop down like a bag full of acid that's sprung a leak at the bottom. Everywhere else, the radiation belt is thousands of kilometers away. But in the South Atlantic Anomaly, these deadly high-energy protons and electrons can dip down to as low as just 200 kilometers above the ground. And what's so special about 200 kilometers? That's the altitude where most low-orbit satellites, the Hubble telescope, and even the International Space Station have to pass through. It's like you're driving on a highway. You're just cruising along, and suddenly you notice that on the road ahead, without any warning, a massive crater filled with magma appeared. And that's why I say, this is the Bermuda Triangle of space. This isn't a legend. It's a kill zone defined by physics. You might think this has nothing to do with you, but for those who spent a fortune on the equipment and people sent into space, this place is hell. You know what? Almost every satellite that flies through here shows a visible scar in its back-end data. When the Hubble telescope passes through here, it has to stop its observations and shut down its high-voltage electronics, because if it doesn't, those high-energy particles will hit it like bullets, piercing its photodetectors, filling the photos with snow-like static, or even frying the circuit boards directly. The strangest things happen to the astronauts. Many astronauts on missions aboard the International Space Station, while passing over the South Atlantic, have reported a hair-raising phenomenon even during their sleep cycle. In this region, when they close their eyes, they can still see inexplicable flashes of light. Some look like shooting stars, others like sparks from an explosion. This isn't some paranormal event, nor are they dreaming. It's because the radiation is so intense. High-energy particles pass right through the spacecraft's metal hull, through their eyelids, and directly bombard their retinas. This is the famous light flash phenomenon experienced by astronauts. Just imagine your retinas being used as target practice by cosmic rays. How would that feel? And satellites really have been destroyed here. Japan once launched a satellite named Hitomi, a high-energy X-ray astronomy satellite. It cost a whopping $270 million and was considered a state-of-the-art satellite at the time. The result? Just 1 month after launch, it completely lost contact while passing through the South Atlantic Anomaly. The subsequent investigation and analysis suggested it was highly probable that the satellite's attitude control system was hit by radiation in this region, causing a single event upset in the computer. Simply put, the computer glitched out. The satellite mistakenly thought it was spinning, so it frantically fired its reverse thrusters, trying to correct its orientation. But instead, it spun itself faster and faster until it literally tore itself apart. $270 million. Turned into a pile of space junk in seconds. That's the power of the South Atlantic Anomaly. It's completely unforgiving, so the question is, on our perfectly fine Earth, why does the magnetic field have a hole in it right here of all places? Could it be that aliens built a base on the floor of the South Atlantic, drained the magnetic field? To find the answer, scientists turned their gaze from outer space to the very depths of the Earth. We know that Earth's magnetic field is generated by the flow of liquid iron and nickel in the outer core. Much like a giant dynamo, if something's wrong with the field on the surface, it must mean a part inside the generator is broken. Scientists scanned the Earth's interior using seismic waves. The results, at a depth of 2,900 kilometers, at the boundary between the core and the mantle, revealed two astonishing behemoths. They were two enormous, dense masses of rock, each the size of an entire continent. One is located beneath the Pacific Ocean, while the other is looming directly beneath the African continent. In academia, they're called large low-shear velocity provinces. LLSVP, no need to remember the name. Just think of it as a foreign body lodged in the Earth's core. So where did these two things come from? There's one theory that's as radical as it is stunning. They are the remains of Theia, the ancient planet that, 4.5 billion years ago, collided with Earth and gave birth to the Moon. After that epic collision, part of Theia's body didn't melt. Instead, like two giant stones, they sank to the deepest part of the Earth. That foreign body located beneath Africa is denser than the surrounding mantle. And it's at a different temperature. It acts like a disruptor, severely interfering with the normal flow of liquid iron in the core. The liquid iron, which should flow smoothly, is forced to change course here, creating turbulence and even generating a reverse magnetic flux. It's like having a blood clot in your heart. The blood flow becomes chaotic. And when this deep magnetic disturbance is projected onto the Earth's surface, it corresponds exactly to that giant magnetic hole over the South Atlantic. So, the South Atlantic Anomaly isn't just a hole in the sky. It's a scar from that interstellar car crash inside the Earth 4.5 billion years ago. A scar that still aches faintly today. If it were just a matter of replacing a few satellites, it would be a financial loss at worst. But what truly keeps scientists up at night is that this hole is growing. Data from the past few hundred years shows that the area of the South Atlantic Anomaly is continuously expanding, and it's moving westward at a speed of 20 kilometers per year. What's even stranger, recent data shows this massive pit is splitting in two. It seems to be developing to separate cores, one over South America, one is in southwestern Africa. This means the Earth's magnetic shield is collapsing even further. Could this be a sign of a much greater disaster to come? Many paleomagnetists believe this is very likely a precursor to the Earth's magnetic poles flipping in Earth's history. The magnetic field has flipped hundreds of times when the North and South poles swap places. It usually happens once every few 100,000 years on average. but the last reversal was 780,000 years ago. So, by all accounts, we're long overdue if the poles really do start to flip. The South Atlantic Anomaly could be the first domino to fall. When that happens, it won't just be the South Atlantic. The entire global magnetic field will weaken dramatically, and we could even see multiple chaotic magnetic poles emerge. The North Pole might wander down to the equator, and the South Pole could end up over China. At that point, Earth would be completely exposed to the bombardment of solar winds. And don't think this is just about not being able to use a compass. Because the ozone layer would be damaged, our skin's health would face enormous threats. Whales and migratory birds that rely on the magnetic field for navigation would get lost on a massive scale or even get beached. The most terrifying part is that our modern civilization is built on electricity without the protection of the magnetic field. A single, super strong solar storm could destroy the entire global power grid. Transformers would burn out, the internet would go down, and humanity could be thrown back to the steam age overnight. And the starting point for all of this might just be hidden in this vulnerability we're discussing today. Although scientists predict that a complete pole reversal might still be hundreds or even thousands of years away, but the existence of this vulnerability is a constant reminder to us that the Earth is not an indestructible fortress. The technological civilization we're so proud of is actually built upon an extremely precise and extremely fragile physical balance. A disturbance from a single rock deep within the Earth's core can paralyze a satellite thousands of kilometers away. A tiny gap in our magnetic shield can force all life on this planet to face the harsh realities of the cosmos. And this vulnerability reminds us that survival in this universe has never been a guaranteed privilege, but rather a matter of luck. Alright, that's all for today on the secrets of the Earth's magnetic field. Do you think this hole will heal in the future? Or will it continue to grow?